Okay, so today we'll be talking about data types. No? And in Java, there are two types of data types. Okay, so get my trusty whiteboard here. So we have primitives and we have reference. And sometimes, or this may be called wrapper class. Wrapper class. Okay, as I have told you, I recommend that you read two chapters in advance. No? So, what are primitives in Java? Anyone? By short, there are 8 primitives in Java. And long, float, bubble, uh, boolean, and then car. Yep. Static by 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So this is one data type, no? And this is the usual data type that we use. No? Okay. This one, yeah, primitives are data types, no? But there's a difference between we have here. I don't know if on the wrapper class, I'm not sure. There's string. I'm sorry. There's integer. Better yet, we Google it. So it's capitalized. No? There's float. Oops. So this one is integer. Okay. I don't know if there's a we'll talk about that after. And then float, bubble, and then I think it's boolean also. And we have string. Am I correct? Those who have Googled, is there a byte and short? Let's see.
Yes, sir.
Byte and short. Okay. How many? How many are the wrapper classes in? I- as you know, no, you don't have to memorize, no? Okay. And I don't know if there's a class. No, let's Google it. Wrapper class. Okay. There's character. Okay. And then there's string. So it's different. Character. And then string. Oops. So, what do you think is the difference? Anyone? Okay. Um, well, normally I tell my class that Java, no, Java is purely object-oriented programming. Okay? It's purely object-oriented programming. However, with the exception of primitives. Primitives are the basic. That's why they are called primitives. No? These are built-in data types in Java. Okay, and of course, no, the wrapper class. If you want to create the objects, you you should be basing it on the reference or the wrapper class instead of the primitives. And in actuality, no? Okay, and the wrapper class is also based on the primitive data types of Java. Now let's have a this one, no, byte, short. I think, of course, no, these are containers, no, and these are containers of specific data types, no, like this one, short, I byte, sorry, byte, short, and long belong to um, whole numbers. Uh, okay, so
Ay, excuse lang po, sir.
yes,
Um, ano lang po, yung audio niyo po kasi medyo natatabunan yung boses niyo nung electric fan. It's
ay,
kind of hard
so-
to understand you po.
sorry,
Ay, okay
I'm
lang
just
po. I'm just letting you know po.
thank you.
Thank you po.
I should be in the office. Okay, so i- was there any improvements in the audio?
Ayan, okay na po, sir. Thank you po.
Okay, okay. I set it to oscillate. So anyway, uh, primitive data types. I don't want you to what's this? I don't want you to memorize. Okay, but there is a minimum and a maximum set of numbers that you can, of course, enter. Okay, if you type in a specific data type, like for instance, byte. No, okay, you can input a range of from -128 to 127. No? Okay, that's why byte and short are the least used. No? Okay, and for short, no, it's up till -32,768 up till never positive 32 or 32K. No? Okay, so if you are sure that, let's say, no, you entered a specific variable, no? That it may contain up till 0 to 100. No? That's it. So you can be specific about the data type. No? But normally, when we actually when we discuss things, and most of my co-faculties, no, and in the examples in YouTube, no, it's usual that they use integer. No? In integer, you can have a default. Sorry, you can enter a range of values up till 2 billion. No? Okay, and of course, no, if you're not satisfied, let's say you will enter values that are more than 2 billion, then of course, no, you can specify the data type as long. No? Okay, so an example, of course, let's see. Uh, I have Java here. Okay, I think the long, no, is quintillion. No? So normally we use int. Yeah? Now, if you go beyond the if you go beyond a value, no, okay, or a data type that has this range of values, and you're based on computation, or you entered a value that is more than the range of that specific data type, then weird things may happen to your program. No? If you're using IDE like Eclipse or NetBeans, it will of course not complain. No? If you uh, initialize a specific value on this particular data type. No? But of course, no, I don't have NetBeans or Eclipse installed. No? Okay, so let's create something primitive. Java. Okay. Okay. So an example, of course, in creating a variable, no? Or sorry, and so so this is an example of declaring and initializing a particular identifier in Java. No? So let's say, okay, so this may be similar. This is similar to your C. No? What's the difference between the two? No? Of course, they are of different names. No? What's the difference between the two statements here?
Sir, yung sa pangalawa po, nag-initialize ka po ng 100.
Okay,
Then yung sa una po, parang hindi siya fixed.
okay, agree. What else? Yes, agree. Same as what Kara said. Let's take a look at it again. Ah, what else?
Both variables sir, are primitive type.
Yes. Okay. Agree. No. As you can tell, no, if we're talking about primitives, no, um, they have one thing in common. No? All are small letters. No? And if we take a look at the wrapper class, that's why it's called a class. No? Okay. So later on, we will know the reference or wrapper class. No, they begin with a capital letter. Yeah? Okay. So of course, this one is very popular. No? String. We will be talking about string later. No? Okay. In fact, there is a section about that. No? Okay, on your syllabus. What else? Let's look at the program again. Let's compile it first, no, so that you will know that there's no problem with it. No? Let's see if I have. Okay, so no problem. So what else? let me rephrase my question. Okay. Um, with regards to memory, okay, that's the first statement. This one. Does this occupy memory? Or will this statement, when it's executed, okay, will occupy memory or memory?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Why? Remembering
Um,
your C, C. If you
yes,
remember
sir.
your C.
Sa pagkakalam ko, sir, whenever you all declared a variable, whether there's a specific value or object there, as long as na may dineclare kang variable, it already consumes memory or a nodes in the memory.
The second,
So,
yeah,
yes, sir.
okay. The second statement, there's no argue with that, no? It will occupy memory, okay? Because you declared and initialized it. So initialize meaning you put a value in it, even if it's zero, okay? But the first one, so Lerwin says that it will occupy memory. The first one is a declaration. Do you agree?
Yes, sir. It's a declaration and the value
Okay.
will be null as of the
Okay.
moment.
Okay. Null meaning nothing. Okay. So there's no value. Okay. So who disagrees with Lerwin that declaration, okay, will not yet,
Sir,
there's no memory yet, no, to be allocated, no, in
sir, can
declaration.
I answer po?
Yes, of course.
So, dun sa na-research ko po, in Java daw po, kapag nag-declare po tayo ng variable na class type, only a reference lang po yung nakikreate, which means wala pa pong memory na na-allocate for the object. So, I think dun sa pag nag-declare po tayo ng variable, wala pa pong memory na nako-consume.
Ulit. Alex, yes.
Sorry po,
Repeat,
sir.
repeat.
So, ano po, kapag nagde-declare daw po tayo ng variable of a class type sa Java, only a reference is created, meaning memory is not allocated for the object yet.
So when you say class type, let's say, okay, so this one.
So, yung class type po na nire-refer dito is yung sa wrapper class, sir?
Yes.
So, I'm not sure na po.
But with regards to declaring, no, in C, is it correct that when you declare, I don't know if my memory is failing, no, but let's see. Let us answer that and then correct me if I'm wrong. No? Okay. Uh, it's welcome, no, if let's say my memory fails and if you will correct me, no, that's okay, that's fine, no? Okay, but in declaration, nothing, okay, there's no memory allocation yet. Okay, the second statement, now when you declare and initialize, of course, no, okay, there's memory is being allocated, no, but what Alex has said earlier, no, so let's say, okay, Now, if we're talking about this is much better. STR value 1 and STR value 2. Okay. So imagine that these are memory locations. Okay. So these are the memory locations. Okay. And I will highlight it by using this one. Okay. It's better if while I'm doing this, could you Google that, no? In declaration of variables in C. Going to be similar in Java. No? So let's say we skip. No? And I'm going to skip again. Okay. It should be 0. Make it somewhat realistic. 5, 10. Okay. Okay. So if we're talking about primitives, okay, especially numbers, even if it's float or integer or whatever, okay, if we're talking about numbers, the value inside that particular address will be its value. However, if we're talking about wrapper classes, especially string, okay, as what we have declared here, let's compile it again, so that you know that there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, so no problem. With regards to what's happening in memory, okay, if it's a string, okay, the value will be the address. Okay, and this address, okay, that's why it's called a reference. So it references the actual value, which is here. Do you get it, class? Do you understand? Here in the statement here, okay, we take a look, okay. So just imagine this is memory, okay. Just going to move it, and I've assigned a uh, a variable or identifier named value1, and I've initialized it with a value of Java. So the actual the label or the identifier, let's call it identifier or variable. Okay. will just point out to an address. Now, the value here is an address. Now, the actual address here points to the, what's this? The value. Okay, that's why it's called a reference. Okay? The wrapper classes are also called references. Okay, do you understand, class? So it value one and value two, no, points to the same address. Okay. Any questions, class? Do you want me to send this later? Ay, sorry. Uh, no, you just take a picture of this. No? Okay. So later on, if you want, no, you can. Everything is in YouTube. No, you can watch it later. No, but that's why they are called reference. No? Okay, because they're just pointing out to the actual the value or the identifier. No? The value inside, no, is a reference. No? Not unlike in primitives. No? Okay, wherein that particular address space of that identifier, okay, has that particular value. Okay, do you understand, class? Any questions?
Sir, paulit po lang yung statement niya, sir, about the difference.
Okay. Now, when we're talking about primitives, no? Okay, an example of this is integer. No? Whenever you declare and initialize, no, a variable. No? So usually in primitives, no, when you use a primitive data type, it's just a variable. It's not going to be an object. No? Not unlike reference. When you declare a particular identifier, okay, using a wrapper class or a reference, no, it's an object. Okay. But while in primitives, no, okay, the address here, uh, okay, these two, of course, are primitives, no, and the value inside the address is the actual value. Okay. However, this one is a string. Okay. And a string is a reference or a wrapper class. Now, inside that, no, the address, let's say address 2, no, okay, the value inside is an address, okay, that references to the actual value, okay. So let's say I defined again here, oops, sorry, okay, and of course, so the name variable, no, that does not contain, okay, because it's a we use a wrapper class or a reference, no, okay. This one will point out this is not an actual, this is just an example, no, okay. Okay. Do you understand, class?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any
So,
other? Yeah, go
so
ahead.
maybe that's the reason para sir why if we print a reference type of variables in the main, instead of printing the exact value, it will print the memory address kapag reference po.
What do you mean? So let's say,
Um,
for example, here in main, I'm going to print out this one.
yes, sir.
This will print out Juan de la Cruz. But what I'm talking about is what's happening internally in Java. No? Okay. Actually, I'm not going to include this in the exam. It's not going to be included. No, it's internal. No, what's happening internally. No? Okay. As developers, yes, we must understand it, but it's not our concern. Okay. If we're talking about assembly language, yes, it is a concern. We must be concerned about memory locations. Yes, it's assembly language or machine language. But if it's a high level language, no, I'm just telling you what's happening inside. Okay? Actually, it's just a high level explanation. No? There's more to it, no, than the simple explanation. No? And we're not concerned about that. How Java stores it. No? Okay? We're not concerned. No? Okay? Uh, This one, if we compile it, no, it's just going to print out Juan de la Cruz. No? So let's, and then let's run it. Okay. Question? Oh, did you research on that with regards to declaration? Does it will it allocate memory?
Yes, sir. Ni-research ko po, it will always allocate memory whenever we declare.
Java?
Yes, sir. Kaya, sir, di ba kapag ni-research po natin the
Okay.
bytes sa
Mhm.
memory sa Java, ang value po kasi, sir, ng integer is 4 bytes. So, whenever we already declare na sinabi nating integer, meron na po agad 4 bytes doon. So, walang pakialam si Java doon kung may laman yun o wala.
So it
Yun
will
po yung...
allocate memory.
Yes, sir. It will allocate a memory.
Okay. So there's a memory location.
Yes po.
Okay, I stand corrected. So there's nothing wrong with the two statements. All the statements here will allocate memory, no? Whether or not you declare it. Is it the same in C?
Yes, sir. I think it's the same sa C kasi may mga fixed value din po yung mga data types doon. So, actually, sir, same lang yung laman. Like, yung byte is 1, character is 2.
Yeah, they are of course, no, the only difference are the wrapper classes. No? Okay,
Yes, sir.
so
Yung wrapper
there's
classes na
no
po talaga.
there's no reference or wrapper classes in C. No? Okay.
Wala po. Opo.
Yeah. Okay. Now, of course, the other difference is the data structure, no? Okay, in C. so, so anyway, again, no, when we're dealing with this, no, you might be confused. Do not. That's why. Uh, that's why I don't want to explain it in detail, no, because you will get confused with regards to wrapper classes. No, I mentioned wrapper class. Okay, and I know that most of you will be confused. What's a class? No, we're not yet into classes, and I mentioned that whenever we declare using a reference or wrapper class, it will be an object. Okay, so we're not yet into that. Huh? Okay, so I know that most of you will be confused. No? So let's Any more questions with regards to this is how we declare primitive, no? And this is how we declare a wrapper class, no, or reference, no? Okay, so these are examples. Okay, so again, if we use a print line, no, all of that's why, okay, although this is ridiculous, but anything inside the print line will be converted to string. Okay. So normally, if you do this in C, it will give you an error. No. Okay. You must convert it. No. So let's say you're going to concatenate a string or a character. No? Okay. Normally, a string in C is an array of characters. No? Okay. Now, this one, you might get confused, but this is totally fine in Java. No? Okay? So everything that is inside print line will be converted to string. Okay? So this is the sign for concatenation inside the print or print line. Now, print is system.out.print. No? It will display the same. However, okay, the only difference is that when we use another system.out.print, oh, what will happen? What do you think? Value 1. Value 2. Okay. So what do you think will happen? Let's see. Okay. The print line, that's why it's called a print ln. No? It will include a carriage return or a new line. No? Okay. The print, it's just going to stay on that particular line. That's why, oops. Okay. So this one will be printed, value 2, which is Java, will be printed on the same line. Now, if you want, uh, if you're just using string without the print line, no, you can do this, no, a control character. Okay, this will solve the issue, no, or okay, let's have a CLS here. Okay. So it's as if no, we use a new line character or a carriage return. Nah? Okay. Any questions or clarifications? None? Okay. Maybe input will be next meeting. No? But we'll proceed to arrays. No? Arrays. Let's see. Before I proceed with arrays, let's talk about there are times uh, okay. What do you think will happen here? Will this compile? Will the compiler? Ah, will the compiler? What's this? What's the question? Sorry, senior moment. Will you receive a complaint in the compiler when you compile it? Will the compiler complain? Senior moment because it's two C's. Na. Ah, what do you think?
Okay.
What do you think? Wait. Oh, sige.
Um, can I
Let's see.
answer that po?
Sure.
Hindi po ako sure, pero I think it will execute naman po yung float quotient is equals to numerator divided by denominator, pero hindi niya po ipiprint yung result if ever. Tama
Yes,
po
it
ba?
will not be printed, no, because we did
Opo.
not tell it to print, no.
Opo. Yun po yung sagot ko.
Okay. What else? Any other answers?
I guess sir, the alam ko sir magkakaroon ng problema when it comes to declared data type since yung ano po, yung numerator and denominator will accept an integer, then yung destination value niya will be a float. So I don't know sir kung mag-e-error kasi sa C po kasi kapag nag-declare tayo ng float tapos may integer, alam ko po mag-e-error.
Yeah. Although, if we take a look at it, no? If we take a look at it, there's no problem, no? Okay. Fine. It's fine. Okay. But of course, no, this will be the compiler will assume that you are initializing an integer value to a float container. So let's see. Wow, it did not complain. No? Okay. Of course, it will tell you the correct answer. No? Let's compile again because I've modified the program. No? Okay. Now, to be safe. Wow. Galing. Galing ni Julia. Julia ba yung sumagot kanina? Galing ah. Okay. Sometimes it will complain, no? Okay. But to be safe, what do you do?
Sir,
Yes,
mag-a-append po ata ng F sa dulo po nung declaration po.
correct. To be safe. uh, Before now, when I was teaching earlier Java, no, this one did complain. No? Okay. So it depends on the version of the compiler. No? Right now, we're what's the version of the compiler? 15?
Yung latest po sir, Java 18 na po.
18. Wow. So the earliest that I've downloaded was, I think, 12 or 11. And of course, yeah, this is the safest. If you want. Sometimes, even though you put this here, it will still complain. The earlier compilers. Okay. Okay, if I remember right now, I remember when I was teaching it in the laboratory, and then some of my students complained, even though they put this as zero, okay, in double, there's no problem. If you define this as double, no problem. But in float, sometimes you have to put here, even though you put a zero, okay, to be safe, you append an F or F, no? Capital F. Doesn't matter, no? Okay? It's just like C. Okay? Okay, very good. Okay. Now, since we're done with that, no? Okay? So again, with regards to primitives, no, again, as I have said, Java is an object-oriented programming language. No? Okay? Everything in Java is an object, with the exception of primitives. No? Okay? Uh, we will proceed to arrays. No? Okay? So what is an array, class? This is just a review. What is an array?
Sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
Array is a collection of objects or items with the same data type.
Very good. Correct. And, okay, actually, this one is an array. The args. Now, whatever you have learned in C with regards to declaring an array is still the same in Java. No? Okay. So let's say, uh, oh, sorry. So in C, okay, then we populate it. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. But in Java, it's much better if you do this. Okay. Oops, sorry. It's a collection of values that has the same data type. That's correct. So let's say, for example, so let's compile this. I hope this will not complain because this is the first time in years that I have done this. Oh, yeah, this one. So this is an example of you put F. uh, Even though you specified a decimal value. Okay. Okay. So both will be fine, the first statement and the second statement. However, it's better if you use this one. This one is recommended. In fact, if you have read or watched, no, okay, Java tutorial no, or tutorials, no, okay, most of the examples is the second one with regards to arrays. And normally, to access a populated array, we use a for loop. Okay? So a for loop, okay, normally has what? It has three um, arguments, right? So what are those three inside the for loop?
Initialization.
Okay, correct. Second one,
Condition.
sure, very good. How many? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 elements inside. So this one should be 8. And the last one,
Incrementation.
okay, this one is called iteration or iteration. Okay, very good. So let's see what will happen. What do you want? Do you want it to be printed horizontally or vertically?
Vertically, sir, para hindi po dikit-dikit.
Okay. So it's going to be the same. No? So let's say it have space so that all of you can read it. Oops. Okay. So let's run it. Sorry. Yeah, let's compile it first. Uh,
Typographical, sir, numbers.
yes, thank you. Okay. So let's run it. Okay. Sorry, they should be 9. Um, why is it that we started with 0 and then it ended in 8? If you remember your C, we have 9 elements. This should be 10, right? Normally, but no. Why? Because
Index, sir.
Yeah, the index. This is the index. No? Yeah, correct, correct. Why?
Kasi
Sir?
non-array po, sir, laging zero po ang start
Mm,
with the
okay.
array.
What is that called? Correct. What is that called? You were saying, Jose ba? Luis? You were saying something?
Hindi na po, okay na po, sir.
Ah, okay. And it's called what? It's called what? Luis? It's called what?
Yung index po, sir.
Yeah.
Ay,
How what is it called? Yung sinabi ni Julia in Tagalog, Englishin mo.
sa zero po kasi nagsa-start yung index
Yeah.
pag sa array po.
Yeah, it's called yeah, correct. Zero-based index. Lerwin, am I correct? Zero-based index. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So, however, it's better if we do this. Let's say, for example, I'm going to print out the salary. No? That's why everything in Java is an object. No? I'm going to do something. No? Okay, so okay. No. Okay, this is just optional. No, I always comment out the last with regards to the code block, no, the ending code block. No, if it's going to be nested, no? Sometimes if you write code that has a complicated nesting, no? So let's say it's 10 or 5 levels deep, okay, and if you're debugging, no, okay, that's why if you write code that is always it's not indented, no, then you will have a problem debugging it if you have a code block that has more than 3 levels deep, no, and the code there are formulas inside, no, inside the code blocks, no. So with regards to the second one, the second code block, what's different? So we're addressing a different array, no? The salary, the first code block, the first for loop, no? We're accessing, no, the numbers array, no? But on the second for loop, we're printing out the values inside the salary array. So what do you think is the difference? I'm not going to highlight it so that okay, you're not going to get confused. What's the difference between the two besides the array name, no?
Sir.
Yes.
Ayan. Natatawa lang ako. Ayan
Ah,
po. For the difference, sir, doon po sa first for loop,
Mhm.
we are iterating the array with a fixed number of iteration like less than 9. So, meaning, we already know the exact value or the number of elements in the array.
Mm.
While on the other hand, doon naman po sa pangalawa, yung object salary dot length, so it's another Java utility, no? So the function of that is to count. So meaning even though na unknown or hindi natin alam yung number of elements inside the declared array, so the Java will know kung ilan yon, then doon natin siya pwedeng i-iterate how many times. So the object salary dot length will return how many numbers inside of the array.
Okay. So the length here, which is what's this? This is called a property. Okay. So as I've told you, no, everything in Java is an object. So that's why I've specified a prefix of obj. No? So this is an object. The array is an object. And since it's an object, okay, it has properties. Okay, we'll be talking about properties and methods later. Okay, so there's a difference between there's a particular method, no, called length. So this is different from this one. Okay, so this is a property. It's built in. No? So when we do this, we're telling Java, okay, count the length. I don't care. That's the difference between C. Okay, in C, you have to know. Okay, you have to know the number of elements in order to display all of the items. So let's say I'm just going to display uh, elements 5 and 6. Or, sorry, I'm going to display all of the elements. No? So you have to determine if it's 100 elements, you have to count it. No? Okay, that's why in C, normally what we do, okay, we define, what's this? Senior moment na naman, nakakainis. There are variables that you define like this one. Okay, and this one is called what? If the variable is all caps, what is this called? Actually, I forgot. I'm asking for help. ah, senior, pasensyahan nyo na, matanda na yung nagtuturo eh. No? So, what is this called? Hmm? If I'm going to think, if I'm going to access my memory, no, it's going to take a long time, no, because I'm thinking of something else, no, before I can do this. Oh, class. If this one, like this one, pi, you define this, no? I'm going to so that the compiler will not complain. Okay. Yes, constant. It's a constant. No? That's why no, in C, no, whenever we define arrays, no, we define constants because we know the number of elements. No? It's constant. Thank you, Vincent. No? It's a constant. No? So, do you do this in C whenever you do an array or whenever you do a for loop? Okay, you actually type in the number, the actual number of elements. So what do you do? Do you declare constants or initialize constants or do you type in the actual number in your code?
Para malaman, sir, yung how many elements.
Uh,
So
Okay.
meaning sir, what if
Do you do this, or let's say this one before in C? Wait for a while. Or sorry. Just an example. What do you do? The first one, this one, or the second one? What do you normally do when you code?
Actually sir, sa C po kasi both naman po useful. So sa C po, if we don't know, tulad po nung kanina, yung counterpart po kasi ng dot length sa C is tinatawag po nating size of. So I don't know if you remember size of, sir.
Yes, I remember size of.
So yung
But
size of po, ginagamit para malaman po kung ilan po yung numbers doon sa array. Para yun po yung gagamitin as number of iteration sa loob ng isang loop.
oh,
Yes, sir.
okay. But with this particular statement, do you do this? If you're not using size of, do you do this, or do you do this?
Yung pangalawa po, yung 9.
9. Okay. Um, okay. Because it's in the past, no? But I hope you don't do this anymore, because this is called hard coding. Okay, it's better, no, if you use the first one. No? It's going to be parameterized. Okay, the second one is hard. We call it hard coding, no, because you put actual values. No, in C, there's no choice, no, but if you put actual values, make it elegant. No? In which case you have to what's this? Declare constants. Okay, it's okay. But of course, we're talking about OOP. There's no more. No more. Don't do this anymore. Okay. Before I discuss the last one, no? Okay, the last four. Okay, you only know this one. Actually, this is the standard. No, you can eliminate, but I'm not going to confuse the others. No, you can eliminate some of these arguments. No? But this is the traditional one. We have the initialization, the condition, and then the iteration or iteration. Okay. But before I continue with the last for loop, just for the sake of completeness, we have the do. And then this is just going to be a review. No? And then we have the what's the difference between the two? I'm not going to demonstrate it anymore because you know this already. No? This is just a review. So what's the difference?
Sir, hello, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, yung difference po, based naman po sa syntax, sa dual po, pinaprocess lang muna yung statement bago po, i-process yung condition. Bali po, parang magpiprint lang muna before mag-loop.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yung sa while naman po, yun po, yung condition lang muna po before processing the statement. Yun po yung, titingnan ko muna kung true or false before proceeding to the statement.
Okay. sometimes one of my before, no, one of my girl staff, no, they do the simplest explanation is the do while is and this one. Do you agree? Okay. Okay, in the do statement, no? Okay, whether or not the condition is true or false, okay, you will enter the code block, the block once. Okay, the while condition, no? Okay, you will only enter the block if the condition is true. Okay, so do you agree with my girl staff the way she explained it to me? I forgot if it was what's this, an interview. That's why she passed, no? Or something in a meeting, no? So anyway, yeah, and actually I agree with her, no? I agree with her. Okay, so I hope this is still the same practice, no? Oh boys, be a while condition, no? Not do. Okay. So the last for loop that, but of course, no, I have an exercise. No, we have exercise, but I'm going to post it later. What's the numbers? Okay, those who have read the first two chapters, what is this called?
Tawag po dyan, sir, is for each loop.
Very good. It's a for each loop. Okay. So in which case, next meeting before we proceed with input, remind me that we will be uh, what's this? Talking about next meeting. Please remind me. No, we will first discuss. Okay, so please remind me. Okay, so for each. This is an example of a for each loop. Okay, so you specify the value where it will be stored and then the array. Okay, Java does the rest. Okay, so this is a much simpler loop. Okay, so I haven't tried this in reverse because in for loops, no, you can do that in reverse. Okay, no problem. Okay, so let's try it with regards to doing wrapper classes. Okay, string. Sorry. employees. Students. Okay. Let's make it five only. Okay. And then uh, you can only do this using a wrapper class, no? This one, the new. And let's say, yeah, uh, let's compile it first. Oops. What happened here? Okay. You cannot do this using primitives. Should be five only. Okay. Okay. Sorry. I haven't tried that. No. This is the first time that I have tried using a primitive. Okay. So you cannot use primitives if you're going to do this particular statement. You can only do this in wrapper classes. And we will talk about new later on, no? When we talk about classes. Okay?
Sir, ano po ulit yung error?
That one. This one. Okay? The new keyword you cannot do this using primitives. Okay. Only wrapper classes can have this particular statement, no? And of course, oops, sorry. If you have any questions, no, please ask. So the first two, we populated it, no? So it's populated, no? Or yeah, populate. Sorry. And this one, I usually don't include an S, no? Just going to copy it. Okay. So Ah, okay. And if we're going to access this students or students, no, should have called them Voltes team. So anyway, we're going to use a for each here. Oops, sorry. Okay, so name. Okay. 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 So any questions with regards to our discussion in arrays and of course the data types in Java? Okay. The one thing that is still applicable to arrays in Java and in C, no? They are similar because you cannot, once you have defined the number of elements in an array, you cannot resize it. Okay, so it's going to be fixed. Okay, so again, the rules in creating an array, no, it must be of the same data type. So if you declared it as, or if you define this as integer or float, no, all of the values must be float. You cannot enter an integer value inside, no, okay, or a string value inside, no, okay. Once you have defined it, okay, with a specific number of elements, no, okay, you cannot resize. It's no longer resizable. Okay. The only thing that you can define an array that is resizable is when you use an array list. Okay. So the array list class, okay, is an array, okay, that is resizable. You can add, delete, modify the size of the elements in an array list. Okay? So please remind me, that we will be discussing first array list before we discuss inputs. So any questions with regards to our discussion today? Hmm. Ano yan? A text ba yun o reminder that it's dinner time? So anyway, um, okay, I'm not going to prolong your agony. No, I'm going to give you an exercise later this evening or tomorrow evening. No, okay, and it's going to be an assignment with regards to arrays. No? Okay, it's we will be dealing with. So actually, I'm not going to expound on what we have discussed, but we're just talking about simple arrays, no, or one-dimensional array. Okay. All the things that we have discussed are just 1D, one-dimension array. And if we're talking just before I dismiss you, if let's say, for example, I have defined a two-dimensional array, okay, the first bracket corresponds to what? This one. The first bracket
Row.
is okay. Very good. And then the second one,
Column, sir.
column. Okay. So, in order to get the number of elements, total number of elements is you just multiply the row and columns, no, to get the total number of elements. But when we're talking about, let's say, three-dimensional array, okay, that's your exercise. Eh. Okay. When we're talking about three-dimensional array, the first one, okay, if you remember,
Block size po ba?
nope. You haven't gone this far, no? In C. It's just two-dimensional array, no? Actually, when we talk about arrays, no? Okay? And if we talk about three dimension, up till 2D lang kaya, no? In arrays, correct? In C? Or did your
Hanggang 2D lang po.
okay. So the first bracket is called a table. You will have an exercise of 3D array. No? It's just a simple. It's just going to be five employees, no? Or items. Okay. So wait for the exercise, and then if you have a problem with the deadline, no, you can complain on our Facebook page, no? On our Facebook group, no? Okay. So, yes, I'll send this one, of course. I'll send the two files, no, the two programs, so you can have a reference, no, okay, of what we have discussed. So anyway, again, I hope you learned something today, no, and I'll be seeing you next meeting. Please remind me that we will discuss first our array list before we continue with our regular programming. No? Okay. Okay. So you can have your dinner, class.
Ay,
Thank you.
sir, tanong ko
Yeah.
lang po pala.
Sure.
Sa mga correspondence po, yung activities na sasagutan nila, strictly sa IM lang po ba? Or pwede silang makisama po sa activities ng online?
They can, no? They can actually mga activities, it's for everybody. It should be for everybody. Okay. The correspondence, meron pa ba? May correspondence pa ba sa PUP?
Opo, sir. Meron po.
Ilan ang correspondence nyo?
4 po.
Are they working students?
Opo. Yung iba po.
Okay. Problema. Okay. Napaka bata pa para magtrabaho. Anyway, dapat mag-aral muna. Okay. So, again, no? Later, Julia, if you have other concerns with regards to the correspondence students, no, you let me know. Okay. So, yeah. Thank you, class, for today's...
So, sasabay po sila sa online na gawain po? Or hindi na?
Normally naman, if I set a deadline, it's not going to be overnight. No? So, let's say, you have this activity, hindi naman ako strict na you pass it after 5 hours, no? Or you pass it on the next day or the next 2 days, no? So, it depends. Okay?
Sige po, sir. Thank you po.
Okay. So, I'll be seeing you next meeting, no? Thank you, class. Good night.